weapons are useless.
The first soldier who was killed was out on patrol by himself. After looking at the body, he had 2 puncture wounds in the neck. Whatever attacked him must have had huge fangs, and it looked like he had drank all of the blood from the body. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be the last victim I would find.
刚才真是太险了，我今天真是走运了。我这实在太幸运了，今天真是走运了。
Another victim was found. He was also a soldier with the Hukbalahobs, also known as the Hooks. The Hooks are a communist rebel army. They took over a large portion of the Philippines after World War II. This soldier had been killed in the same manner. He had 2 huge puncture wounds in his neck, and most of the blood in his body had been removed. The soldiers started blaming these killings on a creature known as the Aswang. The Aswang is kind of like America's version of the Skinwalker. This creature had a taste of human blood, and the killings did not stop. The third soldier who was killed was deeply religious. He was also missing a frag grenade. The Imperial Japanese Army occupied the Philippines from 1942 to 1945. The Philippine government was unable to protect its own people. This gave birth to the Huk resistance. The Huks were mainly made up of farmers, and their popularity continued to grow. Now that World War II was over, the Huks became even stronger. They took over one of the largest islands in the Philippines. They had their own system of government, their own laws, and their own military, which was very large, to back them up.
你具有多个极有武器的敌人，上头指令正在进行中，与敌面已联系。Charlie Ross， 老虎1-2，我们是 Bingo 燃料。
But now with the Aswang killing everyone, the men were terrified. Most of the men refused to go out on patrols alone. They were instructed to go in groups of 2. But this didn't change anything, except for the body count.
"我愿意干啥就干啥，包括走过去给你一拳，听懂了吗？
我真的能使用无人飞机，长官。
然后呢？你吃饭了吗？这回断了。
手雷，
你怎么样了？好的。我是说真的。
没有，我肯定他们之间没什么。
他们抓住了下毒的菲律宾厨子。
不知道，我啥也没听说，他们就让我来跟值班员汇报，我就来了。
Your weapons are useless.
没错，没错。
Two more of the Huck soldiers have been killed. Rumors of citizens being killed in the local town of Pampanga only fueled dissension among the ranks. The Huck's leadership started moving their base of operations away from their stronghold position. They thought by moving their armies, it would appease the Aswang. But it seemed like the Aswang was following the Hucks, and the killings continued. The Huck Rebellion ended in May of 1954. The leader of the Hucks surrendered and accepted a 15-year prison sentence. There was a sigh of relief on both sides. The Philippines is a democracy, and the Hucks, allegedly, were communists. The American government had pressured the Philippine government to do something about the Hucks for the longest time. Unable to match the Hucks' army, there was a standstill. The US did not want to send their military because the American people would never agree to it. But sometimes, things are not always as they appear.
I got movement. Contact.
Request permission to engage with intent to conduct a smash. Over. Enemy is unaware of our presence at this time. Over.
Oh, you're dead! Target down!
Brigadier General Edward Lansdale was a firm believer in the efficiency of psychological operations. He knew that the Americans would never agree to send in troops. It would have been a bloodbath.
Hitman 2-3, Echo 5 Foxtrot. This is Hitman 2 Actual. You are approved to engage in 5 mics.
Lansdale believed to be successful in psychological warfare, you need a firm understanding of the social and cultural beliefs of a target.
We got you surrounded!
我活着实在太幸运了，走晕了。
There's nowhere left to run! Target down!
In order to create an effective Aswang army, Special Forces units not only had to kill Huck rebels, but also local villagers. They would put the bodies in places in order that they might be found.
Your weapons are useless.
The military would call blast terrifying sounds from the forest. They created a special weapon to kill with. It had 2 prongs, made to look like fangs. After the victim was killed, he was strung upside down to allow all of the blood to drain from the body. God might be able to save you from the Aswang, but not the CIA.
2-3, 3, be advised, we have a visual on enemy bruiser grid, Papa uniform 259er, 119er. I don't know we're onto them. Break.
Rokoni mashatane mekete de bashole mekete de basole mekete de mashokole meshekete araba. Loshontole mekete de bakoto de basa.
Take cover!
It's isolated.
It's a true story. Without going too much into politics, that story is messed up. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you. A quick update on the app. It was rejected by iTunes, and so it was something minor that they wanted fixed. iTunes asked to have changed, so the developers are actually working on it, and they're resubmitting it to iTunes, so I'm waiting just like everyone else, and I appreciate everyone's patience. Trust me, I'm on it. I'm trying to get it, trying to get the app up there for everyone as quick as I can. Tonight we're going to be chatting with Anthony, and Anthony comes to us from New York. He's got a place up in upstate New York where he likes to hunt, and over the years he's had a lot of really weird things happen to him on this property. I'll let Anthony go into it. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. And if you get a chance, check out sasquatchchronicles.com. You can become a member and get additional shows. Let's jump into it tonight. I want to welcome Anthony to the show. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here again. And I know that this encounter took place in upstate New York. If you would you just kind of start from the very beginning, kind of tell us what you were doing and walk us into what happened?
So we went upstate. It was 2 years ago, 2019, and we were going bow hunting. We drove up after work. It's about a 4-hour drive from where I live. We got there pretty late, maybe like 1, 2 in the morning. Packed their stuff, whatever. And then we go to bed, we wake up. So the plan was to have my brother, he was going to go down with our one friend down to the back of the property. And then myself and my other friend were going up on like the main road we have to our property. And our property is pretty remote. It's about 2 or 3 miles from the main road. You literally drive through 2 mountains to get there. So it's pretty isolated. There's nobody around. We went to go take the high road because we have deer trails that run parallel with the road. There's like an upper and lower trail. And we were going to sit up on the main road that we would drive our truck on and try to intercept the deer coming down to go down to feeding areas. And then hopefully spook those deer maybe towards, my brother and our other friend. So we get up, it's probably like 5, sometime 5 in the morning. And it's pitch black. There's overcast. Can't see anything. Can't even see your hand in front of your face. Start going up the trail, and we spook 2 does up, or 2 deer, whatever. Don't think anything of it. Keep going. We get to the spot. It's not very far from our cabin. Maybe like a 5-minute walk. And I sat off the road, and the road goes up a little bit. So I sat up on it, and there's a cut tree. So I sat on the tree, and I was facing one direction towards the property. And then my buddy was sitting right behind me facing the opposite direction. So we were covering all areas in case any deer came through. So I'm sitting there, and it's still pitch black, can't see anything. We got up maybe probably like an hour, or we were out an hour before sunrise, and to get there before, all the animals wake up, give the chance for the woods to settle back down. And we're sitting there, and I'm staring off into, just nothing, just looking straight, just trying to be as quiet as possible. And all of a sudden I just see I see 2 eyes just come up by the tree line. But like they opened up really slow, like as if a person was just like waking up, and like they just opened up slowly. And had 2 eyes looking at me, and they were green and they were illuminating. First thing that went through my mind was a lot of people who have property up there, they put like little reflective dots on the trees. but they'll put like two of them next to each other. Kind of like if you walk through the woods or driving, you get like spooked, like thinking it's like an animal, like eye shine. But sitting there thinking about it, I'm like, well, there's no light. The moon's not out. It's overcast. I don't have a flashlight. My buddy doesn't have a flashlight. It's pitch black. So I was like, all right, that's pretty weird. So then I was thinking, all right, maybe, we just drove almost all night to get there. So I thought I was still waking up. I was exhausted. I was just seeing stuff. So I kept like closing my eyes, trying to like, close it, like make the light, the eyes go away, like as if I'm just like seeing stuff. And they didn't. So I was like, all right, it's pretty weird. And then, so I was sitting like on this stump and I was kept adjusting like my posture and stuff because it was hurting my back. And I would notice like every time I would like move my head, like the eyes would move with me. And again, I thought I was just like seeing stuff. So I would just move. So I started to like move my head just a little bit. And like I noticed like the eyes were moving with me. And I was like, okay. And then so I started taking like a little more like drastic movements just to see what was going on. So I did it again, and like of course it would follow with me. So the last time I moved my head all the way down to my shoulder, and the eyes followed with me, and they went completely like completely vertical. And I was just like, whoa, all right, this is weird. So my buddy's sitting behind me. I leaned back against him, and then I whispered to him, and I'm just like, hey Chris, I was like, I think we got a problem here. And he's like, what's going on? Like, we're whispering, of course. And the eyes are still fixated on me, just looking. And this thing didn't blink once either. The eyes didn't blink, nothing, just staring. And I was like, you see where the direction I'm sitting? I was like, just straight forward. I was like, do you see those eyes? And then he turned his head and he's like, oh yeah, I see him. And I was like, all right, I need you to do something for me. I was like, I need you to look at the eyes and then move your head like sideways. And I'm going to watch the eyes and see if they move. And he's like, okay. So then he does it. Sure enough, I watched the whole thing just move like its head, just totally sideways. And then he moved his head back up and it brought it back up with him. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I was like, we're just going to be quiet. All right. Just don't make any noise. Don't do anything. Let's just sit here. So I sat there the whole time, just staring at it and still doing the same thing. Just keep moving my head, see like, if it's me. I mean, obviously I know now that it's not me. There's something there. So, and then I sat there maybe for like, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes till twilight started to come up. And you could kind of see this, the sun, like the light coming up, like in the horizon and everything. But the woods are still pitch black. So it was getting maybe a couple minutes past twilight, I guess you could say. And like all of a sudden, like I could see like the eyes just like close, like very slowly, like as if it was going to sleep. Close its eyes, and it starts walking away. And it's like it wasn't even like heavy stomping either. It was like very light stomping. And where this thing is like where this deer trail goes. There's beech nut trees, and deer like to eat beech nuts. Like the little seed pods, they like to scrape them and eat them. So that's why we sat there. And whatever it was, I assume it's the only way it could have went. It went through like they look like little saplings, but very densely together. And it didn't make a single noise going through there, which I thought was impossible. And after a couple minutes of it, tiptoeing through the woods, I guess you could say, all of a sudden we just hear like a loud, it's like, like it almost sounded like a huge exhale, like it was sighing. It was very, very loud. When it hit us, it was like, it felt like the noise like went through you, I guess, if that makes sense. And like kind of like bounced around, and it was just intense. So I was like, all right, dude, that thing's gone. Let's let the sun get up. I was like, at least we could see, because all we have at this point is just, we have bows. It's bow season. And yeah, New York doesn't allow you to carry, guns with you when you're bow hunting and stuff. So I have a bow and we both have like fixed blades, and that's it. So we just waited till the sun came up. The sun got up, and I was like, Chris, I'm going to stay right here where I'm sitting, and I want you to go stand by the tree, because I could see exactly where it was now, which tree it was behind, or peeking around, however you want to put it. And he went over there, and I was just like, I kept my eyes fixated right where it was. Like I didn't move the whole time, so I knew exactly where the eyes were. and he was standing there, and I was just like, damn, dude. I was like, where we sat by the road, it goes up a little bit, so maybe like, I don't know, 2 feet up off the main road. So, and then I'm 6'1" already, and yeah, where he was standing by the tree, it had to be like 8-9 feet, and that's a depression, and that goes down too. So maybe, I don't know, maybe even bigger. I'm not really sure, but it was huge. And I got up and I started looking for prints and everything, and it was just nothing, absolutely nothing on the ground, which was crazy too. I couldn't believe that. I was like, we're going back to the cabin. Let's drink some coffee, some food, and then we could talk about it. But right now, we shouldn't just be right here, because like I've been going in the woods whole life, never had something like that happen. Went back to the cabin. We were on the deck, made coffee, hanging out, waiting for my brother and our other friend to get back. And they get back, I don't know, maybe an hour or two later. I go to my brother. I'm like, did you hear any kind of like noise or like anything run through the woods? And he's like, no. He's like, I didn't hear anything at all. And I was like, are you sure? I was like, it happened at twilight, like just at twilight. You didn't hear anything. And he's like, no. And I was like, all right. I was like, and then I told him the whole story and stuff. And brother kind of believed me, but our other friend didn't. But
Yeah, it's a fascinating account. It's a weird encounter, especially the creature's behavior. Let me ask you, how far away from you was the creature when you were looking at the eyes?
it was probably 25 yards away, if that. It was relatively close, like really close.
And from what you saw, Anthony, you never saw the creature actually squatting down. You saw it standing the whole time, correct?
Yeah, it was like it never moved anything. Like the head stayed in the same exact spot the entire time, which was pretty crazy too. Like usually animals, they'll move or something, make some kind of noise, but it was just like it was as if it was just standing there and like looking at like just me, just like trying to figure out what I am. I don't know. It was really bizarre.
And from talking to you off the air, Anthony, I know that you've been a longtime hunter. You're always outdoors, so you know most of the animals that you run into. This is a property you go to all the time. And with regard to the eyes, it's my understanding that you'd mentioned the eyes were glowing, so it wasn't eye shine you were seeing.
No, it wasn't eye shine because, like I said, there was no moon. It was overcast, and we didn't have any flashlights on. Nothing. Like they just like appeared out of nowhere, and they weren't. It wasn't even. They weren't like bright either. It was kind of just like just enough light. I get if that makes sense. Like not to the point where it's like blinding or it's not like so dim you can't see. It was just like just the right amount.
Yeah, the glowing eyes get reported a lot, and I'm really not sure what to make of it. So, when you were looking at this thing, you were looking at these two bright eyes looking back at you. Were you able to see any sort of details of the creature?
Not. I mean, kind of thinking back, like what the like when Twilight hit. But nothing crazy though. And it just had like this, like a head and then just like the shoulders would just drop. But it was kind of as if like it was half behind the tree and like the head was like right on the side of the tree. If that makes sense. Like it was kind of like trying to hide itself a little bit.
And you guys are out there right before the sun is coming up, and I wanted to ask you how long. Maybe I missed it there in the beginning, but how long were you guys standing there looking at each other?
Hour 15.
That's definitely a long time when it comes to Sasquatch encounters, but it doesn't really surprise me standing there kind of watching you guys. I want to ask you about the eyes. How big were the eyes?
The eyes, I'd have to say they were pretty big. Maybe like tennis ball size, a little bit smaller, but not too much smaller.
And I know you're kind of a no nonsense New Yorker. You're not really into Bigfoot, or you weren't prior to this, as you and I talked on the phone. I wanted to ask you, as you were sitting there looking at this thing, you've been to this property many times. Now you're looking at this thing. It's got these weird eyes that are glowing, that's looking back at you. What did you think it was?
Honestly, like, running through the process of elimination, it's like the only thing I can think of is probably like a Bigfoot or something. Cause like I've seen bears at night. I've seen bears like stand up and everything like that. And nothing fits the bill. And like here, we don't have, in New York, we don't have, mountain lions or anything really crazy. The only real predator is like a coyote or a black bear.
Yeah, what's strange about the eyes, I get reports of eye shine all the time, but I also get reports of eyes glowing all the time too as well. And the fascinating part is I get it from hunters, who've seen eye shine their whole life, and now they're seeing these eyes glowing back at them. And you being a hunter most of your life, what do you make of the eyes glowing?
Honestly, I don't really even know what to make of it because the only things that I know that have like bioluminescence is like certain fish or stuff like that, like krill, I think, or no plankton. Like they're the only ones that I know that do that. I don't know any mammals or anything that could do that. You know what I mean? So it's pretty. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's just crazy.
And I know there's been a few other things that have happened when you went up hunting up at this property, but before we get into that, on this particular trip, did anything else happen?
No, that was it. That was the only thing that happened. But I do have to say, like the following weekend, we went hunting too. I mean, this isn't like anything. Well, could be now that I think about it. I don't really know, but we went deer hunting again for bow, and it was me and my other friend who was with my brother at the time. We were walking that trail. We were coming back from a hunting spot, and it was getting late. And I had I don't know if you're familiar with like white-tailed deer, like vocalizations and stuff. So like certain older deer make a certain call. It's called like a croaker call. And I just found out about it, so I bought a call and practicing or whatever. And this was the first time I used it. And we were in the same exact, like we were walking past, but like we were in the same exact spot, pretty much what happened, to the weekend prior. And I did that call, and it's, I mean, you could look it up, or anyone could look it up. I guess it could be mistaken for a Bigfoot call if you don't know what you're listening to. But I had that happen when I was there the next weekend, and I kind of had the same feeling as when I heard the original noise, like the weekend prior, because I don't know, the noise that I heard from the woods, which I thought was, it could still be a deer too, but it was so deep, and like the noise just traveled so deep through the woods, like it just hit you like a brick wall. It was just wild. And I mean, we thought from the time, even up until now, like I thought it was just a deer, but thinking back on it, and like especially like with your podcast, like listening to it and everything, and hearing people's accounts of like how they mimic stuff, could very well have been that too. I mean, it was only a week apart.
Yeah, they definitely mimic known animals, but they always screw up because it's usually louder and more powerful than the original. And for the audience, so we're all on the same page, here's what the croaker call sounds like. And Anthony, on the show, we talk about lights all the time. Eyewitnesses will come forward and talk about seeing weird lights. On this property, as you and I were talking prior to coming on the show, you had mentioned you'd seen the lights. Was it in the same area that you saw this creature?
This was the same exact area. When the first incident I had with the lights was I was in my cabin and I was going to bed. This was last 4th of July. We were up for a couple days, and I was going to bed, and it was kind of hot out, so I had the window open, kind of had my head almost out the window. It was so hot, and I was just kind of looking off into the woods, just whatever, just trying to go to sleep. And I was up there with a couple of my buddies and my brother, my dad, a couple guys in the cabin, and everyone else was out in tents outside. But anyway, I was looking out the window, just staring off into nothing, and all of a sudden I see like it's like red. It was like red and blue and like a yellow lights flashing through the woods. And again, I was just like, I'm bugging out, because usually like if you come from, like, I'm not from upstate New York, I'm from Long Island, so you coming from like suburbia to the woods, like sometimes it takes time for like your brain to adjust, and like sometimes you can see stuff like real quick, but nothing crazy. But so I thought it was just that because it was the first night we were up, and then I'm still looking out there, and then all of a sudden I see more going through the trees, and then I was like, all right, this is I guess there's people walking through the woods. And again, like my property is very isolated. More than likely, no one's walking through the woods. It's pretty deep in the woods. And so I'm like, oh, I guess there's people walking through the woods. So, I'm still looking just to make sure I see what I'm seeing. And I see one, it just goes right down the trail we usually drive on to get to the property. Just goes right down, like just carelessly floating down. And it's just like flashing red, blue, and yellow. And then past that into the trees, it's just like, it looks like they're moving past, like weaving through the trees, like a whole like bunch of them. And so I told my brother, I was like, yo, there's people outside, like there's flashlights and everything. I was like, walking through through the woods. He's like, he's like, no way. And he goes and looks and he's like, oh yeah, look at that. So then, before we know it, everybody's up looking out in the woods. And two of my buddies, they have night vision. One has a PVS, well, they both have PVS 14s. And so they turn them on and they're looking out in the woods and they're just like, oh no, they're just fireflies, like bugs, like just flashing. I put them on and I was looking at them and it just looked like a ball, maybe like a softball or baseball, and it would just like move. And then they're just like, oh no, it's like fireflies. I've been coming up here my whole life. I've never seen fireflies ever in the middle of the woods. Like, I don't know if anybody does, And they're just like, yeah, whatever. And, they're just laughing it off. No big deal. I was like, all right, whatever. And then, by the time we're making all the noise and everything, the lights are all gone. Flash forward to the next night, we're going to this rock quarry that's by us, and we usually go hike there. We like to go at night because I like to do night photography. So we decided to go out and do that, and we're walking on the trail to get there, and it's like we're walking, and again I see it, just balls of light just moving all throughout the woods. And I'm like, hey guys, the fireflies are back. You want to see them? I was like, or are they people? And then, they put on their PVS 14s and they looked and they're just like, no, yeah, they're just fireflies. But those lights followed us almost the whole way to the rock quarry. And that was from the point where I saw them to the quarry, it was probably 600-700 yards. It was pretty good ways. And then again, effortlessly just moving through the woods, just like passing through trees. But we weren't close enough to them to like really see them. They were probably like 80 yards out, but you could see the lights like very well, and that was pretty bizarre too.
Yeah, and then the way you describe their behavior, they start following you guys. Fireflies, I don't think are going to follow you guys to where you guys are going. And, seeing these balls of light, that's what it sounds like as far as what you saw. And I don't know that, at 80 yards away, you're seeing things that are, golf ball size to softball size, lights flying around. That doesn't sound like fireflies to me.
Yeah, I mean, like when I say like I see the size of it, that was under night vision, so it was a weird moment. But it was going parallel to us. Like it's just like they're going to the same spot too, if that makes sense. We were walking through on a trail and they were just going through the woods, but like right next to us, almost the whole way there.
It's very strange, man. Very, very strange. And there is a long history of the lights. I did a show on the Foo Fighters, World War II, even the pilots seeing the lights, but people seeing these balls of light go back way before that. Let me ask you, Anthony, I know you're kind of a new listener, but what's your take on the lights? What do you think that they are?
Honestly, with the lights, I never even thought anything of them until I started listening to your podcast, and I started hearing people talk about it, how they would say like they would see them with sightings of like Bigfoot or vice versa. So I mean, I don't think I really have like time to like develop an opinion. It's definitely really weird, like again, like I said, I've never seen, like I have fireflies here where I live on Long Island. We have like just a regular, green ones, but I've never seen red and blue, like a bug emitting red and blue light like that before. So I don't really know what to make of them, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Especially seeing the different colors and how it flickers different colors. The lights are weird, man. The lights are weird, and I don't know what they are either. I know there's a few other incidences that took place we're going to talk about. One of them was when you were younger. If you would, tell us about it.
So I had one when I was a kid. I was like in middle school. I was with my dad and my brother, and we were on the quads, and we went to that rock quarry I was telling you about. We were going to go make a phone call because that's the only place we get cell service. And I'd like to say this is kind of like where my brother kind of like were getting like into like Bigfoot and stuff like that. And like we watched all the shows and everything like that. And I just remember the wood knocking thing was like a big thing, big deal. So we went and tried that. So we brought like wood with us and everything. And we get to the quarry, we're just doing it. Did it a couple times, wait a couple minutes, do it again. And remember, my dad was like watching us do it, and he's like making fun of us. He's like, "You guys are watching too much TV, whatever." And then, so like out of spite, I did it again, one last time. And then, sure enough, it was like a knock, and then like a couple second pause, and then another one from one direction, and then in like totally opposite direction, we got another one. And I just remember my dad. He's like, "All right," he's like, "We're out of here," and he like threw us on the quads, and then we just got out of there. And that was like the first time we ever had like something really weird happen.
Yeah, it's always when you're never really expecting it. What did your dad say?
He's like, "I'm out of here," and we just boogied out of there. And he never said anything about it. Like he's been going up there for like 30 years, and he has a whole bunch of stuff he just doesn't even want to talk about. Seeing red eyes in the woods and stuff like that, but he's just not into telling us about it.
Yeah, some people, they just don't want to acknowledge it. I think a lot of people don't want to give up hunting, so they kind of look the other way when weird things happen. I know in 2014, you had an incident on this property where you were paced. If you would, tell us about that.
So we went up, it was the day after Thanksgiving. It was myself, my brother, my dad, and we brought our buddy up too. He's never been up there before. It wasn't the kid I was with the eyes, but different kid. Anyway, we go up, the day before Thanksgiving. I mean, the day after Thanksgiving. So it was Friday night. We got there, and it was Black Friday. So we're like, all right, let's go to the rock quarry, and we'll go shopping for like clothes and stuff. We were like we were like 16, and so anyway, we head off. So like to get there, the trail splits off from the main road, and there's like a steep hill you have to climb up. So we went up there, we got to the hill, and we were a little winded, so we just took a minute just to catch our breaths, not to sweat so we don't get cold. And when we got there and then we stopped, my brother stopped, my friend stopped, and then I stopped, but then I heard a noise behind us as if it stopped too. So it was like 2 steps, stop, put my head back, looked to see what was behind me. I thought that was weird, and nothing. So anyway, we carried on, kept going. Every so often we would just stop, catch our breaths, try to keep cool, not to start sweating too much because it was freezing out. And the same thing would happen. Like you would just hear like the 2 steps, and then it would just stop. And then we'd start walking, and then it would start walking, and then we'd stop, 2 steps, stop. The whole time I didn't say anything to anybody, my brother or my friend, because it was his first time up there. And, if it was a bear or, I don't know, a cat, I don't want like a mountain lion. I mean, there's no mountain lions over here, but there's supposed sightings up here or anything, because it was just bizarre behavior. So I didn't want to start like, getting everyone all crazy and frantic. And I had we all had flashlights, and I had a shotgun with me. And whatever, we kept going. And this kept going on for the entire way until we got to the rock quarry. So that's probably like quarter mile, half mile walk the entire time. Just constant stopping with us, starting up with us again. And so we get to the quarry, do what we gotta do, and we start heading back. So I was like, I was suspicious at this point. So we started walking, and we would stop. Sure enough, hear it again. So like, all right, now I'm on edge. So I opened the chamber to the shotgun, and I just left it open, just in case something did come out. And because I was in the back, I wasn't in the front, so I didn't want to load the gun and walk behind everybody. So I just left the chamber open, and we kept going all the way back. Same thing. Whenever we'd stop, it would just be there. And then we get to the same spot where we first heard it, and I'm just like, all right, let me ask these guys. So I asked my brother and my friend, I'm like, have you guys noticed something's been following us this entire time? And they're like, oh, yeah, we know. We heard it the whole time. So I loaded the shotgun, and then we just all turned our flashlights on and put them like on our hip and faced them behind us. And nothing, it never like moved or anything. And it didn't even pursue us further past that point. So, and that was that.
Yeah, it's very strange, and it gets reported a lot. People will say, when I walk, it walked. When I stopped, it stopped. When it was following you, was it following you from the side?
Yeah, so like if I was walking, it was on my right side the entire time, Like it didn't move opposite sides or anything, and it almost felt like it didn't give us any space either. Like it maintained like a constant space between us. If that makes sense. I didn't even think anything of it. Like I just thought it was like a weird thing that happened in the woods. And then when I started listening to your podcast and I started hearing about people having like these instances where they're getting what like you guys call them pacing, I was just like, oh, that's exactly what happened to us. Like, heard like a whole bunch of different accounts of it, and I was like, yeah, that happened to us. I was like, damn.
Have any of these events kind of changed your feelings as far as wanting to go out there hunting?
No, it hasn't affected me at all. Because I mean, I forgot to mention this too. Like when I saw the eyes, like in that moment, it was never like a moment of like I had my hair stand up on me and everything, but it was like it wasn't a moment of like fear, like I'm gonna get killed. It was almost like in awe. Like I didn't feel threatened. My friend didn't really like. We were startled, but we weren't in fear of our lives. Like I've heard plenty of people who freak out or anything, but this was almost like you see it and you're like, oh wow, look at that, and like you're on edge, but like you're not fearing for your life. Like it was like there was like almost a calming feeling with it too. So even in the instance where it was following us in the woods, like there wasn't really a moment where I was like, oh man, we're gonna get attacked or I'm gonna get killed. Like it's just there.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Anthony. It's not like it was threatening your life, therefore you got to quit hunting. It's just a lot of weird things going on up there. I wanted to ask you, do you have any neighbors near this property where you go hunting, and have you actually talked to them?
So we have neighbors all throughout the mountain, a couple people who have property up there, and then one particular neighbor, they have a property it's up a hill above us, and we're fairly friendly. So it was actually this year when I saw him when we were up there having like I think we were grilling or something, and we're just talking, and I was like, "You guys ever have anything weird happen up here?" And they're like, "No, not really." Like kind of like not really, just admitting it. And then I told them my story, and then they were just like, "Yeah." He's like, "Actually, come to think of it," and then they start spilling the beans on what happened to them. And one instance that happened to them was actually kind of similar to mine. That they had their cabin has like it's like a deck, and then it's like a clearing, and then it goes like up a hill. And they went out. I forget which one of them went out on the deck, and they were just looking out, and they saw like red eyes on the tree on the hill, and it was like moving around, getting closer and everything, but always kept its distance. And it just ran off out into the woods and disappeared. Another instance they had up there when they were younger, they were hiking around through the mountain, and they stumbled upon like a mass grave of deer, and it was like about like 30, 40 deer just all dead in the same spot with just bones though, just bones laying out in the woods, giant mass grave.
Yeah, that is strange. And I've done shows before where people run into what we call boneyards. With regard to the deer, though, there is other more natural explanations. I know there was a recent find in Idaho, I believe, where they found all these deer that were dead, and it had to do with the disease that they had. It's still weird to find, and I would definitely be careful on that property. I ask everyone, Anthony, what do you think Sasquatch is? And I'm curious, what is your opinion?
I definitely believe that it's like a flesh and blood creature, something that I feel like we've kind of probably lost touch with, because especially like how Native Americans and everyone, or people who spend extensive times in the woods know what it is. I feel like just like for the average people who don't go out in the woods and don't have like that connection with the land, kind of just lost sight of what it is, you know? I just think like when people go out and look for it, you know, like they're like, oh, how come if they're there, we never found a body or anything? You know, so if you're searching an area, say 500,000 acres, try to like get your brain to understand how vast that is. 500 acres, you know, you got to try and find one animal in that much land. Like you can't even process how much land that is to begin with. So like to say like it can't be there is kind of doesn't really make sense either.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we do have a ton of open land and large amounts of open land, around the size of a small country. So there's definitely room to run around out there. So you think it's more of a natural animal we haven't caught up with?
Yeah, just like a natural animal that we knew about, and then we kind of just we left the woods, you know, like we moved into like neighborhoods and cities, and it's like it's not to say like we just left that. If you ask like any native or anything like that, they'll always be like, "Oh yeah, they're up there," or like, "Yeah, don't go over there because that's where Sasquatch lives." They're very tuned with what they know because they spend the time out there. You can't take someone from like a neighborhood, drop them in the woods, and be like, "Yeah, go find." Take someone from the neighborhood and then just be like, "Yeah, go look for deer now." It's like the same thing.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying. Something we run into in the past. I get completely where we're going with it. With regard to this property that you are, you go up to hunt and that sort of thing. Keep me up to date. Let me know if anything else happens up there, will you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely from listening to your podcast, I got like a better scope of like, I guess what to look out for now. Some of the stuff I didn't even like the pacing. Like I didn't even know that was a thing until I started listening to you. Or the orbs. The orbs, I had no idea. So.
Yeah, I hear ya. And I appreciate you listening to the show, Anthony. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. If you get a chance, check out sasquatchchronicles.com. You can become a member and get additional shows. Until next time, everyone.